I was trained as a psychotherapist, and I could treat a certain number or percentage of the problems that came to me with my standard psychotherapy, and I learned lots of different approaches to psychotherapy. But when I learned hypnosis, it's like it expanded out, because there's a certain percentage of things that only yield to hypnosis or hypnotic-like interventions because they're more non-conscious, is the best way to say it. You can talk to a person, they can decide to change, but sometimes there are forces within them that really make it very difficult to change. So when I learned hypnosis, I learned a way to get to some of these issues in a pretty quick way, number one, and a pretty powerful way. And the other thing is that the kind of hypnosis that I do, I mean, sometimes people come in there, they're frightened of hypnosis, like, oh no, hypnosis, I don't want to be controlled by anybody. And I say, well, the way I think about it these days is that's the old style hypnosis, where people tell you what to do, and it's you will go into trance, this kind of scary, goateed like guy with the deep eyes. And it's a different era in this part of this development of hypnosis. It's the new hypnosis. It's much more permissive, it's much more gentle, it's much more empowering, and it's much more evocative. We evoke the solutions within. One of the influences that I've had is Dr. Milton Erickson, who is a psychiatrist, and he had this idea that we have resources and potentials that we don't use, and hypnosis is a way to evoke them. And one of the books that was written about his work was called The Answer Within. And I think that's what we're trying to find, is not my answer for you. With hypnosis, we find your answer from within. Before I became a therapist, I had struggles with depression. I was really depressed, almost killed myself. A friend talked me out of it. And that sort of stimulated my interest in how do people work, and why does the mind go wrong, and how can you find a way out of trouble? So I became really interested in psychology first, then psychotherapy, which is how to help people change, not just how to understand people. And I became really, because I'd been so troubled, I became committed to finding approaches that weren't just theoretical, like this is how you understand people, really that help people change, feel happier, feel less troubled. And that became my watchword. I'm just going to find something that's pragmatic, that helps people change. And I developed over the years, I became a psychotherapist. I've written a bunch of books, 34 books so far. And I developed an approach called solution-oriented therapy, which wasn't so much focused on what caused your problem and what childhood. We're not going to go back to your childhood so much unless you're interested in talking about that. For the most part, I'm interested in what's happening now and where you'd like to go. And it's much more what resources, strengths, and abilities you have that will help you get unstuck, move to where you want to go. So I call that solution-oriented therapy, and it's kind of, again, a revolution in psychotherapy, because most psychotherapy, coming down from Freud, was let's go back and find out where your traumas were in the past, and we all have things that have affected us negatively in the past. But where the action is, I think, is in the present towards the future. And where your power is, where your leverage is where do you have abilities and strengths, not where you've been damaged and where you have trouble. That's where you're the weakest. So let's find out your strengths, abilities, capabilities, and see if we can use those to move you forward to where you'd like to go and the life you want to lead. Probably my biggest claim to fame is that I was on Oprah, that famous show in the States, and my family was there. I wrote a bunch of books, and they, oh yeah, another book from Bill Gray. When I got on Oprah, they were impressed, and I was impressed, partly because my message can get out. I wrote a book called Do One Thing Different. It was about making one small change to make a big change in your life, and Oprah found it interesting, and I got on Oprah. So that probably made my work a little more widely known and widely available. And it's nice to sell books and to be well known in a certain way, but it's always been for me, can I influence people in a positive way? And that increased my ability to influence people in a positive way. A number of years ago, I was at a large conference and I met this Australian fellow, And we just had lunch with a mutual friend, and we got to chatting, and I told him I loved Australia. I almost moved here when I first came down. I've been down a number of times, and I love the Australian people. There's a certain spirit, a little irreverence, I think, for the Australian people that I like. Like the American spirit. We don't bow to authority very easily, and we have a good sense of humor and a lightness about life, and I found that in the Australian people. And we got to chatting, and he said that he had this organization and he did a series of trainings, and it was AICH, and we started chatting about it, and we found we had a lot in common, that we both, again, are pragmatic. We want to find something that is simple, makes sense, empowers people, not just a bunch of theoretical talk. And because I have learned hypnosis and developed a great love for it, and I think it's a sacred activity, actually. I hate to go spiritual on you, but I find when I'm connected with people in such a deep and, again, non-conscious way, people are moved in a way that moves me, and I feel we're in a sort of a spiritual connection, sacred space that kind of surrounds us while this healing occurs. And I think, Gordon, who started AICH and runs it, I think he has that similar kind of reverence for the power of the healing of hypnosis, and also a commitment to really high quality training. So I've enjoyed coming out. This is the second time I've been here, and I speak a lot all over the world, and I can tell something about the quality of audiences or participants, and it's great quality. People seem to know a lot. They seem to really have a good background, but also they ask really good questions. They're not the kind of silly questions or hostile questions that you sometimes get, or people are trying to prove their own point or just trying to make themselves look good. So it's a really nice learning atmosphere that I know got created before I got here. So I recommend their work a great deal, and their training's a great deal. I haven't been through the whole training, obviously, but I love the spirit that I find here.